Hello, just wanted to walk you through one approach I use when finding digital PR ideas in the travel industry. So the great thing about the travel industry is there are literally hundreds of countries and worlds of ideas to work with. And there's plenty of travel magazines and publications that do want to cover your creative ideas. So diving in really quickly, one of the first things I like to do is use the phrase new study reveals. And then I'll pair that with whatever industry we're in. So we're talking about travel right now. And then I like to set it to 30 days just to get the more fresh ideas, and then I'll refine a little bit more from there. So just scrolling the headlines, ideas around marijuana, dementia and smoke, wildfire, probably a little bit too specific and medical to cover for your travel brand. So we're going to keep things a little bit lighter weight and look for some ideas that look good on the surface. So one thing that popped up was new study reveals the world's foodie hotspots. This is on a DR61 domain, which gets some decent traffic. So this looks like a good piece of coverage here. And when we look at it, we see it's compare the market based in Australia. One thing I've noticed is, and it's not super common, but there are some brands that they'll do digital PR campaigns and they'll link directly to the landing page, like travel insurance, which is great if you can get it. It's one tactic. We don't do it a ton. We often like to link directly to the campaign. What that looks like is this one by Price for Limo that aggregated some data from the Department of Transportation. And they put together this average departure delay graphic, which we actually did earlier this year for a client. So there's a lot of information that you can use with government info on airports and flight delays. There's certain data pieces and certain concepts that the government really likes to release data on, either by law or just for public transparency. So looking at this one, I usually like to, at the high level, you see 843 backlinks, but that's not really real. If you set it to do follow domain rating from 40 plus and set the domain traffic to 4,000 or higher, and then group it by similar, we see there's actually only 11 true links. There could be some that are lower than DR40, but if you're doing digital PR, you're going to be investing a good amount of money, and often you're either launching a brand and you want to get quick traction, so you need to get some of those higher domain rating links, or you're already an established brand, you have a ton of links and content, and you want to take things to the next level. So that's why I like to set a filter. I usually do DR50 plus, but just to open it up a little bit, we're looking at DR40 here. So we see it got coverage on San Antonio Current, which is interesting. Got a Thrillist piece. Thrillist is great. I love reading the Thrillist. They have a lot of writers and they do a lot of fun articles and cover a lot. Then we just go through. We see a lot of radio links, Deseret, a lot of friends in the news industry that we have seen before. So just looking a little bit closer, scrolling through. One thing I want to highlight is it depends on the size of your organization. If you're a top 25 travel site by revenue and volume like Trivago, you may want to go and do deeper research, a larger scope, like a really large survey of your audience, or you commission a new survey. That's what they did here to get on Travolution. If we continue to look a little bit more, we see Skyscanner did a study, Cheap Air does a study. One note here, so there is a approach where you can release stuff on the PR Newswire and hope to get some natural pickups this way from news source syndications. Again, it really depends on your brand and how prominent you are. Cheap Air is a fairly established brand, and so from name recognition alone, doing a press release makes sense. If you're more of a middling brand, the press release itself may not get you much. Taking a look at this one, 455 links on the surface, adding the filters. We see that that number is This is the moment where your heart skips a beat, where you wait to see what it is. 44. Okay, one interesting thing I want to point out as well is some campaigns like this, and ones that we've done before and we definitely encourage, are multi-year campaigns. So you may launch a holiday flights report in 2019. It does well, you're going to release it as many years thereafter as you keep getting the coverage. So yeah, this started in 2016. That was the first year that it was seen. So 44 links over 7 years, not amazing, but they may not have done like a ton of promotion. The other flip side you want to look at is it generating traffic on its own? If it's going after a keyword like holiday flight, which if we open up incognito window, we can see a little bit more. They're ranking number 1 to number 2. And again, this is actually an example of, I guess I have heard of Cheap O Air, which has 2.6 million. Cheap Air only has 10% of their traffic, but is a little bit better branding there. So yeah, think about if you're going for purely links or if you're going for traffic or a blend. One great idea is to launch a concept where you have some organic keyword volume behind it, get that link coverage, and that'll propel it higher in the search results, and you can get some compounding links over time. So I will look at just a few more. Hidden gem travel destinations is interesting. Sometimes this is produced internally, sometimes it's produced by a third party. Looks like this one was third party. Our UK friends love doing digital PR campaigns. They produce these night and day. So that one's linking to the homepage. So it's a little bit hard to suss out who they're pitching and where they're landing coverage. One thing we can do is put in Holiday study. So they got that. Travel Daily News. And a few others I'll bookmark and dive into a little bit more later. Okay, so let's take another look. So let's say you want to get on travelandleisure.com. One cool thing you can do is put in site, and it'll show you everything only from that site. Now, the tricky part is finding what content they're producing internally by their own writers and when they're covering external brands that are pitching them ideas. So we'll put in new study for site Travel and Leisure. This looks good. Florida. Tampa's the best place. So this is to a new... Okay, so this is a Wallet Hub study. Wallet Hub is another one to look at. They produce these things like they're going out of style. They're just releasing stuff day in and day out. They have their own format that works for them. Props to them for figuring that out. We dive a little bit deeper. Do follow. DR 40 plus. We'll do 50 for Wallet Hub because I know they do a lot of these campaigns. Looking at this, what I like about Wallet Hub is they have an intro area, they have the table of contents, they put together a pretty good overview map. I would say this one's not really that usable. Usually I like to cap this at like 25. And it's a little bit hard to decipher what the bigger circle means, so having a legend there is useful. Here's the data table. They always do a data table, and they have some sub-rankings here. Best and worst places to retire: Tampa, Scottsdale, Orlando, the usual suspects. What I like about them is they put together a summary, then they will ask experts, often professors at universities. They'll put out the methodology. They do a crazy methodology. They do a lot. Props to them. On some campaigns that are pretty deep, we will also do a lot of factors like this. Sometimes it can be overkill, but I think they have a pretty good method, and they found something that works for them, and they do a good job. So this is finally loaded. Do follow. All backlinks will group similar. Takes it from 1248 over DR50 to 146. And it was first seen in 2019, so 146 across 4 years. What is that, 40 a year or so? 35 to 40 a year. Looking through this, let's just look at some of the most recent stuff. So they are similar in that they'll produce a campaign, and then if it hits, they'll update it and repitch it every year, which is great. So yeah, this is where they've gotten coverage: iHeartRadio, Click Orlando, AL.com. Strong domains that send traffic, and it really. So just to wrap things up, to do digital PR, you want to choose the format you're going with that really aligns with your brand. You want to choose a topic that has a broad appeal and can get you coverage in your industry. That being said, you don't always want to go too niche. So if you're a flight comparison app and you want to talk about what's, new data reveals fastest loading flight comparison apps, that can be good for a very niche audience and industry. Maybe it'll do well on like web development sites and stuff, but it's not really going to have the broadest appeal. That one actually could have a broad appeal, but if you go super nuanced and super detailed, maybe you just cover like one region, or you just get too specific, it doesn't always connect with the broader public. And so if you're trying to get news coverage, which gives you high authority, high domain rating links from high traffic sites, which really shows that you're an authority, you need to go broad and something the general public is going to love, or at least the travel audience in this case. So that's kind of the philosophy and the theory. So you want to think about that when you're designing campaigns internally or with your partners. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of a peek at our process. Feel free to send over any questions. Happy to help. One parting tip I'll leave you with is, if you've been frustrated trying to get coverage and links from maybe travel blogs or other like smaller sites in your industry while you're trying to warm up, one thing I've learned in working in travel is it's actually easier and more rewarding and better overall to get coverage from the mainline travel publications, because they're producing new content day in and day out. So starting with the top 25 travel publications, especially the traditional magazines like Travel and Leisure et al., I would really focus on those and think about what are they doing, what are they covering, and going after those, because they have a ton of writers. They're probably producing 50 articles a day, and so they just need new ideas, new content they're putting out to social. Personal blogs from travel bloggers, their main income is their posts and their content, and they're getting hit up by travel brands all the time offering them payment for sponsored posts, free trips, free hotel stays, you name it. So they're just going to want money. So if you're trying to go the natural, organic route of having a third-party editorial website validate your ideas and your content and give you the natural coverage without payment, then you really want to go for more of those established publications. Once in a while you can find a brand new upstart travel blog that hasn't gotten hit up yet, but I've learned from experience. I had a teammate of mine when I was in-house at a travel tour operator pitch an infographic around the Rio 2016 Olympics, and she pitched 3,000 bloggers and emails, and we only got like a handful of links. So that conversion rate is not good, not great. There's much better ways of doing it. So feel free to reach out with any questions or comments, and good luck pitching and coming up with ideas.